Hi students, this is Mr. Yao. Some of you were confused about question 6 and question 8 in the 13.1 review. So I'm going to talk about both here. I'm actually going to start with question 8 since that is easier than question 6. In question 8, you may notice it's asking you to solve for R. For both questions, it's actually asking you to solve for R. Question 8 is a bit easier is because R actually appeared in 2 of the fractions. So in order to get R out of the denominator, we just need to multiply everything by R. So if you multiply S over R by R over 1, the R would just cancel out, so you're left with an S. Then 2 times R is a plus 2R. Then T over R, same thing, times R over 1, the R is gone, you're left with a T. Then now we're just solving for R, which means try to get R by itself, which is a lot easier. So just subtract S on both sides, then we are left with 2R equals T minus S. Then we just need to divide both sides by 2. Some will ask you to divide together by 2, or some will ask you to divide separately. That depends on the format of the question, and that's it for question number 8. We can do something similar for question 6. So in this case, if you actually multiply both sides by R, so I'm going to actually give you 2 different methods. Say this is your first method. You can choose to multiply both sides by the R, multiply by R, multiply by R, multiply by R. So that R is cancelled. Then you are left with, oh, that's actually a 5. I wrote wrong. This should actually be a 5. Okay. And then you are left with 4 plus 5R over S, then equals 3R over T. The issue is you can choose to solve for R, but R actually appeared in 2 different places. So for example, I keep solving. I can move that R to the left and the 4 to the right side. I'm going to have 5R over S minus 3R over T. That equals to a negative 4. You can still solve for R, but that is going to require something that you haven't learned yet. You will learn that in the first unit in secondary 2. So I'm going to give you a quick preview. Because both fractions actually have the R in there, I can actually factor out because they share that. Factor is actually the opposite of distribution. So it's like, say you have 3 times x plus 3. You multiply in, you got a 3x plus 9. Well, the 3 and 9 both have the 3, so you can actually take that 3 out again. If they share something, you can take it out. That process is called factoring. So in this case, they both have the R, so I can actually factor out the R. I'm left with 5 over S minus 3 over T. And then that equals to a negative 4. So now I can actually choose to divide that whole thing over to the other side, then I can get R by itself. So that's the first method. Now let's actually use the method that you can do, use the things that you have learned this year. So I will start with 4 over R equals 3 over T minus 5 over S. Again, this method 2 is the method that you can totally do this year. What you may have noticed is the 4 over R is a fraction. So if the right side is also just one fraction, that means I can just flip the fraction and that will give me the answer. So I'm going to combine the 2 fractions. If you forgot how to combine fractions, well, you need a common denominator. So the common denominator between a T and an S is going to be TS. So I'm going to multiply this by TS, or I'm actually going to change them into the same denominator. So TS, let me do it this way. If I want to get the first T to T times S, I just need to multiply the top and the bottom by an S. So I end up with a 3S. If I need the second, this S to become a TS, I just need to multiply that by a T. So I'm going to do the same on the top, so it's minus 5T. Now the left side is a fraction, the right side is also a fraction. I can just flip both fractions. I'm going to have R over 4 equals TS over 3S minus 5T. Now I just need to get rid of the fraction, so I can multiply everything by a 4, so that I can get my R by itself. So multiply by 4. Then I'm going to get R equals 4TS over 3S minus 5T. So that is my final answer. Again, this method 2 is more the way that we can totally do this year. You're trying to combine them into a fraction. If you're having trouble to combine them because you're like, Mr. Yao, I see these letters and they really confuse me. Well, think it similar to a question like 2 over 3 minus 5 over 4. Then in order to actually solve them, you need to get them to the same denominator, which is a 12. So you need to multiply that by 4. and multiply that by 3. So the same situation here, it's just you have a t and an s, then the common denominator would just be both of them multiplied together, which is t times s. So that's how you actually try to change both of them into ts as the denominator, and you see what's needed to change the whole fraction. So that's question 6, which is a bit more complicated than number 8. Hopefully this helps. Thank you.